Welcome to If I Die Today. It's a podcast hosted by me, Samay Mishra. Before we begin, I want to make something really clear. This podcast is entirely independent of my professional work and my company. The views and opinions shared here by myself or by any guest are personal reflections meant to inspire, inform, and provide perspective. Nothing discussed should be taken as professional, financial, or medical advice, nor as a representative of any institution or organization that we're affiliated with. This is a space for honest conversation about life, purpose, and what truly matters, all shared in a personal capacity. Really thank you for tuning in to If I Died Today. Thank you so much. Hey everyone, this is Samay, your host with If I Died Today. I have a great guest here on today, Vin, one of my close friends that I've met in the past probably year or so. Close friend of my brother's as well, but we had met in Bali when he was DJing a wedding of a mutual friend of ours and gotten to know each other, especially on that trip. We flew back to New York. He also stays in New York and have been going to his shows and staying in touch and learning all about him. So I thought he could be an awesome guest today. Vin, I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself, kind of give people a little bit of context on who you are and what you do. And then we can go from there.
Yeah, man. Well, first off, thanks for having me. Vin, like somebody said, born and raised in the Bay Area, California, much like yourself. I'm currently reside in New York for the last 2 to 3 years. I'm a software engineer by day, or let's say by weekday, and probably a DJ, and also an aspiring producer by weekend, I'll say.
Nice. Yeah, that was a humble intro. Vin is one of the best DJs I've ever been around, and I know production is now something he's working on, and I'm excited to touch on some of those points. But awesome. I think that gives like a kind of overview on who you are, but tell me a little bit more about your childhood. You were raised in the Bay Area. Kind of what I do with guests is I get a little bit more context on what childhood was like for them, what defined your earliest memories when you were a kid.
Yeah, definitely. I think I grew up right off the bat very non-conventionally to most. I grew up in a joint family, which is not uncommon in India, but it's definitely uncommon in the States. So I grew up with really 3 families under one household. Is my dad, his older brother, and then his younger brother, and so all 3 families. So my 5 of us cousins are effectively siblings. They're technically my cousins, but to me, they're no different. And to me, it's like having 3 sets of parents. So I think everyone used to say like, oh, that's so sick. It must be so fun all the time. And it is. There's so many pros to it, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. I think most people fail to see what the shortcomings could be. The level of independence individuals may have. I'm talking about the adults. I only started understanding this when I'm older. But if it was just my mom and my dad, then my mom probably has a lot more say in decisions. But now there's a bunch of people and it's like a family decision every time. So it's been very interesting growing up like this. Again, I wouldn't trade it for the world, but I think right off the bat, that kind of set my initial path a little bit different than most. But I'm very close to my family still. I'd say the people that have guided me the most are probably my parents. Are all of my parents collectively, basically.
Yeah, that's interesting. So when you guys were growing up, like, did you feel like you got along with your cousins really well? Like, did you guys go to the same like schools in America? Because I remember when I was growing up, obviously I had an older brother, but I always clinged on to my family friends who of course like became my cousins and family because we had a shared experience being in the States, like kind of battling that duality of being from an immigrant household and also being American. Did it feel like that was an advantage having your cousins? Like, were you guys in the same schools, do the same things, or what was that like?
Yeah, I mean, this is where I think a lot of those pros and cons unfold. So my dad and my dad's younger brother moved here together in '89. And they kind of like set everything up initially, and it was 2 families, and then there's some trials in other cities. Like I did kindergarten in Seattle, for example, and then they decided not to settle there or anything. But my dad's older brother came in 2000, so those cousins are older. So their integration of the States was probably very, very different than mine. I was born here. And they came when one was in high school and the other had finished high school in India. So she went straight to Dianza right after coming here. And then I figured out there's an entire pipeline of people in a similar boat. There's so many immigrants still coming in at the time. So they made friends really, really quickly, and they were very much like them. And my cousin actually ended up meeting her now husband through that friend group. So their experience was very different than mine. My older sister is a year older, and then my younger cousin is a year younger. 3 of us me and my younger cousin had a very similar experience. Like he would do everything I did. I pretty much did everything he did. All the sports we played together. He ended up joining Montevista Pungra after I did. Like
Mm,
similar path. Both of us would do the same things, and then my sister kind of had her own friend group. It's also interesting because you know this, but like brown parents feel comfortable when their kid befriends other brown kids at school, right?
yeah,
And it's like this weird thing that brings them like, oh, he's not gonna go hang out with and it's obviously like it comes across as racist, but for them, that's not how they
yeah,
think about it. They're just like it's familiarity.
yeah.
So that was never a problem for me and my younger cousin, but my sister definitely hung out with non-brown people all the time. So my mom was always more concerned for us. So I think we had a different kind of growing up too, but we got a lot. Me and my sister and my younger cousin, the three of us are like super, super tight right now. We talk, we have our own chat. We talk every day over text about something. They're all in New York now, actually, as of this
All
year.
right, nice.
So yeah, man, I'm very close to my older cousins too, just obviously different dynamic, kind of like a different
Yeah.
part of the generation.
There's definitely layers to that. Like, not only just, being raised in an immigrant family, being with a joint family, and then there's discrepancies also with male and females. Like, I think that spreads across like all families. Like, the way you treat boys is different than girls. Like, and that's for like specific reasons in society. But the thing with the, having brown friends definitely can resonate there. Like, definitely can relate to that. But again, like, I don't think it comes from a place of like any hate or,
Yeah, not at
like
all.
ignorance. I think it comes from a point of like that's the same thing that they did when they came to this country. They cling to people who, not just like Indians in general, but their same similar type of Indian who
Yep,
spoke the same
exactly.
language and them were from the same places. So, that they want that same level of familiarity with the, people that you're with that
Totally,
takes time to build over like a long period of time, at least when you're in a foreign country.
totally.
So cool. So tell me a little bit more about kind of early influences growing up. Like, did you have any coaches, mentors, or did you look up to your parents? Like, who was the early influences? Could even be people in popular media that, really that you wanted to be like, or you felt like were mentors or anything of that nature.
Yeah, I mean, I think right off the bat, I could say there's never been like any celebrity, famous type of person that's been like, I want to be like this person or this person paved a
Hmm.
path I want to exactly follow. I've realized subconsciously I've never done that. Later, I kind of added rationale to it. I don't think, and I think everyone has their drawbacks, like every human being. So why I'd rather look up to great traits in so many different people and try to absorb as many of those as I can rather than be like, hey, I'm going to absorb this person's great traits and all of their mistakes. So I never looked up to any like one person like that. I'd say the biggest influences, definitely my family, my dad, my uncles, the way they came here. I think they also, this is another thing I'll add that you might relate to potentially, but a lot of people in the Bay Area, they're the heavy high percentage of the immigrants coming to the Bay Area are in tech, right? Or some connection to tech. And everyone I went to school with, their dads went to like BITS Pilani or IIT and they did their masters in the States and that's their entry into the States. But my dad and my uncle came to the States was very different. They got some like BCom degree in Ahmedabad and that's it. Like they've never, I don't even know if they have their like paper degrees on them or something. They've never used that.
Hmm.
They've just been in businesses the whole time, which is very Gujarati, like literally, like stereotypically. And that's exactly what they did. They came here and they did business. So I think I learned a lot of stuff that most kids around us didn't. The amount of stuff I knew about like how to not pay, like overpay taxes in this country, like is like crazy by the time that we're like going into high school and like what is a healthy earning, right? Like this is obviously very toxic in many ways. Like I'm saying this very much recognizing all of the flaws of this, but I'm just saying this was my truth, this was my reality. Like yeah, my uncle would be like, yeah, there's no way you can, we'll be in like eighth grade or ninth grade. Is like, yeah, there's no way these you can survive here unless you're making $300,000. I was like, dude, no one makes that out of college. Like, how? What are
Yeah.
you talking about? And I used to freak out. I was like, is that even possible? Like, what's this guy doing? Like, we're degenerates. I think the bar has always been set on that front very, very high. And my parents were never like they didn't know what the SATs were until we're like, hey, we need to take this shit. So whereas all the other kids knew what they were doing. So I
Yeah.
would say the reason I was able to navigate that path is my best friend I met in third grade. Dude, this dude is one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. I pretty much would just stay in the lane that he's carving and try to keep up. Like,
Okay.
he would get a 4.0 at Monte Vista. I would aim to get a 4.0, even though it's not with the same margins that he got the A's. But still, I attribute a lot of my success through school and things like that because of him. Otherwise, I feel like I wouldn't really know what I was doing. I'd have to learn the hard.
Yeah, that's interesting because I mean, I think when people think of the Bay Area, at least when like the Brown community, it's definitely that. Like a lot of the parents who come here, either they come for their masters or they come on a certain H-1 visa, and then they try to work at some company. And at a lot of people settle in the Bay Area because the prevalence of tech and opportunity. But across America, like that board is very different, right? There's plenty of people who are immigrants who came here with nothing except like a few bucks in their pocket and just, like the hope for opportunity. And, more often than not, these people were still able to create a lot of that, right? Because America was that stepping stool of being able to start a business, grow it, and, still be able to raise a family. So those things are, I think, definitely key characteristics of for your upbringing. Knowing that early on and having awareness of that is definitely unique.
Yeah.
But more than that, you had people around you who were still in that ecosystem that you could, learn. And that's just how humans are, right? We adapt to the closest thing to us.
For sure.
And I think that turns into whatever opportunities come as a byproduct.
Definitely.
So music is obviously a big part of your life. It's a motif around it. Tell me when that kind of came into the table. When did music become something deeper than just like entertainment? When did it start becoming part of like who you were?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it was even as an entertainment, it probably was deeper for me than most people around. Like, so basically I started getting so into music, I'd say in like maybe middle school or something like that, when I would do my homework in like my grandma's bedroom or something, because we didn't have our own rooms, our own desks or any of that stuff. I should be sitting there like no ergonomics considered, and just there's a boombox there, so I would just tune in and I listen to Wild 94.9 and Power 106, basically. Was it? No, 106 KMEL. Power 106.
106.
Yeah, KMEL. And that's the ratchet one. So, I used to listen to that stuff nonstop all day, like whenever I'm doing my work or homework, whatever it is. And on the radio when they play like if there's a new release, some artist drops something, they'll play it maybe one time, two times, three times in the day. But when the thing is at like the top of the charts, they'll be playing it like 20 times a day. If you listen to radio for long enough periods of time, you'll literally hear the same song so many times. So that's when I heard like what I thought was a banger, when it was like a new release or something like that, I would immediately go to LimeWire and download it and like keep it, because I didn't have an MP3 player. Our parents didn't get us iPods. This is another con of like these bigger companies. You get it for one kid, you got to get it for five. So we're just not going to get anything. So it was always LimeWire. You're just illegally downloading the stuff. But I started building my now music library. Like, very honestly speaking, has a lot of that stuff probably still. Because I started building that library unknowingly that it was going to come in handy from then. That was my way of collecting music on iTunes. And then there was this like, I was like a very shy, like introverted, very low self-esteem kid. So there's in 8th grade, I remember there was this like, I forgot what it was. There's some like week-long type of thing with like different games and competitions and stuff happening. It was like Kennedy. And there was this one game where like certain kids would sign up and they play the starting of a track, and whoever like hits the buzzer first and guesses it right gets a point, whatever it is. And I'm just like sitting on the side, absolutely cooking these guys in my head. Like immediately comes on, I know everything. Not one miss. I would have won that thing easy. That's when I was like, okay, yeah, maybe I do have slightly a different ear for this, but never to the point where I would do something more than listen until high school. I went to, girls in the Bay, like Indian girls in the Bay always had these like Sweet 16 parties and stuff like that all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went to one of my friends and I literally just saw how this dude, it was literally up to this one guy to decide if we're going to have a good night or not. It's like crazy power to give someone. And that's because all of us are into music, right? The music makes a big difference for whatever the event is. And not everyone's like that, but like all my friends I was going, like we were hanging out with, like we would look forward to the dancing portion of the night. And I was like, dude, I want to do that. That looks sick. I just didn't have that in me. I was like very type B. I wouldn't like be too scared to go do the thing. But then one of my best friends still today, Sriram, she gave me a shot at her Sweet 16. That was my first gig ever. And ironically enough, I just did a guest set at her wedding a couple of months ago. So it was like literally a full circle.
Wow.
Yeah, it was amazing. Someone gave me a shot. I literally used home theater speakers from home, like old, like garbage ones. You're not supposed to use that at a gig. And I didn't have any hardware, so it was just virtual DJ on a laptop. as like tribal and like ancient the stuff I was using was, it didn't matter. People were still dancing and having a good time. No one really cares what the means is as long as the output is still entertaining to them.
Right.
So yeah, that's when I was like, dude, I want to do this. And my dad, I think, living vicariously through me, he saw that I was actually interested, and he loaned me a whopping $500 to
Oh
buy
man.
a starting set of equipment. And if you know anything about DJ equipment, that's nothing. Like a
Yeah.
speaker is $1,000, like a good one. I found some deal. They gave me two speakers. I'm not saying they're high quality, but they're two speakers, like proper PAs, Harbinger brand. I still remember. And I got a third one for free somehow. And then like a little 8-channel mixer, Behringer, a couple wired mics. I still have them. All for $500. So I was still DJing on virtual DJ on my laptop because I didn't have a controller or anything. But eventually, I basically just begged people for gigs, man. Like,
Mm.
please let me do this thing for free. Like almost like I'll pay you if you let me do this.
Yeah.
So I was doing things for like $50, $100, all this stuff, and eventually got enough. First thing I did, pay my dad back. That's just
Right.
how I'm wired. I don't like being in debt to anyone. Next thing I did, you sell a piece and you slowly upgrade, and all of a sudden now you look back and you have $20,000 worth of equipment sitting in your parents' garage.
Yeah.
And that was over the span of 10 years, like just like continuing to level up, learn more, get the right stuff, get better, get better. But it was all just like self-induced growth. There's no way the opportunities were landing in my lap.
Yeah. And it was there a certain clicking point for you, like was it the first gig or somewhere a little bit down the line where you were like, damn, like not only like can I do this, like, I'm worth something in this
Yeah.
space. Like was there a clicking point where it's like, damn, like I can really do this and I can like do it very well.
Oh, for sure, man. I feel like I I have a pretty toxic habit generally across the board of, you can call it whatever you want, but I'll usually only compare myself to, in anything, I will generally only compare myself to who's better than me. Like, what the hell is the point of comparing myself to someone who's not as good? Because that's just like trying to get validation. I'd rather just get better. I'm not saying that's healthy, but there's the middle ground. But that's what I do. So I'd always never look back and see like, oh, like 5 years ago, if I told this kid that you would have been had a chance to do all these grad parties and sweet 16s and be able to like do this and have this opportunity, would you be excited? I'd be like, hell yeah, because the alternative was not having it at all. And then you get there like, oh, I haven't accomplished shit because this guy is doing this and I can do this, then I can do this much more.
Right.
But there was a point. There was a point where I was like visibly emotional. It was actually junior year of college. So when I went to college, I joined UCLA's Bollywood dance team. I was choosing between the Bhangra team and the Bollywood team, but I ended up choosing this, even though I danced Bhangra in high school. But high school is when I started mixing because our captains would generally mix in house after a certain point. And anyone from the Bay that knows classics, he was kind of that first, like, our captain was like cousins with them, and she was like trying to sell us his first CD of mashups. And I heard that, I would never stop listening to it. First time I heard Desi music in general blended with like hip hop and like beats and stuff ever. I've never heard anyone do it. That was the first time I heard it. It's like, dude, this is absolutely crazy good. So that's when I got interested in mixing. And when I went to college, my entry into the music scene there, or the opportunities, was because I could make mixes for dance teams. So I made it for my own team, UCLA Nisha, but they didn't take me seriously like that. When it's your friends or people that know you, like you go up to some guy and he's like, yo, dude, I'm a DJ. They're like, cool, you and everyone else. Like,
Yeah.
every other brown boy is a DJ at this point.
Right.
It doesn't mean anything to them. They kind of laugh. It wasn't at that point then, but they see you as like, oh, cool, it's my friend who has a talent on the side. Not like, oh, this guy objectively in that group of people that do this thing, he's actually good at it. And I would actually hire him externally anyways. They never viewed me that way. I think a lot of people, some people did. And I know exactly which people are which, because those are the people that believed in you without you having accomplished it yet versus
Yeah.
and I'll never forget those people. There was a difference in those two. So I honestly it felt pretty shitty like freshman year of college when I do the mix for them. But when it came to Jumti Sham, the comp that we host, they didn't let me DJ that after party. They hired someone else who was a pro. And I was like, okay, cool, whatever. Next year, same thing, sophomore year. Junior year, I run the show with my best friend in college. We're co-directors. He created, I think for the first time, 1,000-person after party for Jumti. It was absolutely nuts, man. Not just the amount of profit we made, the amount of positive like feedback that everyone was talking about. That is when I was like, dude, I'm actually like good at this shit. People didn't even couldn't who I was, couldn't see who was playing the music, and they're asking who it is. That was the first time I experienced that. And then that was also the same year I had won Best Mix at both Bollywood Berkeley and Bollywood America. And that was like, that's when I proved to myself that I can compete with all these other guys that everybody else is obsessed with, even though I don't have that name like they do. Out of 10 mixes at Bollywood America, mine got chosen. And that was a big deal to me. It's probably honestly maybe almost as equally as big of a deal as actually winning the comp, because we won the comp too.
Okay. And then for those of you who don't, aren't familiar, a lot of the Bhangra dance teams that start in high school also are at the collegiate level. At the collegiate level, it's like a much bigger deal because teams are really invested. There's a lot of good dancers. There's programs and after parties. It's a whole culture, right? All these schools across America, Bhangra, dancing, even nowadays, like singing and all these things are all incorporated into these large events. And that's back then it was a lot of the way where Desis in that sort of community would be able to not only like meet each other across the states, but also express themselves and their culture in that unique
100%.
fashion. And those things would get traction. Nowadays, they're like, they're almost across the board, even at smaller schools. But these were really big deals because these almost bigger programs would host these events and it'd be our form of representation at those schools. 100%. So if you weren't aware of those events, like this is, I'd say, or along the medium stages when things really started to pick up traction.
Yeah. 100%. I appreciate you explaining that because I take it for granted that these things are there.
Right.
No, it's definitely it's great because Hassan Minaj is actually potentially making like a movie or a show on this right now.
I did see something like that. Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. Like literally a microculture was created in America that doesn't exist anywhere else because of I think this unique blend of immigrants.
Yeah.
But yeah,
awesome.
Man, those are kind of the inflection points for me, I would say.
Wow. At a certain point, whether that was like post grad or onwards, obviously you have a degree in CS, was it, or data science?
Electrical engineering.
And that translated into your work in like tech and other companies.
Yeah.
When did you still like realize like I can manage both these worlds? Like I don't have to pick and choose just being a DJ or just working in this space. I can find a way to mix both and also do them at a professional degree.
For sure. Yeah, dude, to be honest, I never even considered not doing both. There's not a part of me that's like, I have to pick. There's never a point where I stopped and said, I have to make a decision. I think I learned in many ways over the years what inherently in between that I was giving up to do both of these things. And there's parts of me that's like, hey, if I really just doubled down my job, like imagine the places I could be. And I think I've done decently well for myself, but I could have been even further, right? And then I think about DJing in a silo as well, same thing. So actually a lot of like my thoughts that I battle with sometimes, like, should I double down on one for a bit and see what can happen? But it's really hard to let any one of them go for any period of time. To literally just quit my corporate job for a year sounds like insane to me. It'd be insane to my parents would like flip out, like for example. But those are the thoughts I've had more often rather than do I have to choose because just for the sake of it. But now, like living in New York City, for example, there's so many people here, there's so many things going on. I think everyone has their own priorities, but for me, showing up for important people and important events is like a non-negotiable. So now living on this side of the country, that adds a lot of more effort that I have to make. A lot of my friends on the West Coast, other places, people are getting married all over the world, like these kind of things. And we're at that, like, I'm at that point in life where all my friends have been getting married in the last 3 years, some even baby showers now. So the amount of time that takes, pair that with the basics, like taking care of your own health. Like for me, staying in shape, like fitness is a big thing for me. So that is another thing I never want to give up. It just makes me feel terrible when I have a slump there. So then what does it leave? Like how much time you have your day job? And in today's world, there's a point, there are good old days like in 2019 and stuff where you get to cruising altitude, you can cruise at some of these big companies working like 20 hours a week. And that's how I managed it then, because I was able to do that. It was actually pretty chill work-wise once you get to the cruising altitude. That doesn't exist anymore, man. I feel like everywhere worth working, at least in the tech space right now, they're juicing everybody. And it's been a lot harder. It's been a lot harder to manage now because we have adult responsibility, adult things happening, like grown-up things like weddings and kids and all these things around, right? Like I have nieces and all this, like I have to make time for that. I don't have to, but I'm choosing to.
Right.
The part that you give up then is like your own time, like your rest, there's no concept of a free weekend. If I have a free weekend, it's like wow, like I had to consciously carve this thing out, because if I just say yes to every gig that comes, there's no free weekend. It doesn't
Right.
exist. And I don't even try to go outbound and try to get gigs, dude. I don't do any of the marketing or any of that stuff. Like, I'll repost stories and that's about it,
Mm.
max. And there's just enough volume that I can't even handle it right now, unless I did it full time, which is a whole different story. So it's tough, but I'm choosing to do it for as long as it's fun for me.
Yeah.
For me, like, I'll sleep later, man. I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
I
tough,
think
but
it's tough, but it's interesting to hear you say like it was never like a choice. Like I think that from the get go it was like, why not do both?
yeah,
And I think what you're saying, it makes sense. Like when you choose the certain things like people and your own health and fitness and managing the expectations of, whether it's like your friends, relationship, family, like juggling all those things comes at a sacrifice. And I saw something recently, and it's probably spread around a lot of places, like community, the cost of community is inconvenience. And those inconveniences, maybe in the short term, but as a byproduct, you get the community, you get these people in your life, you get to share experiences, time, and attention. And, in an ideal world, those things become the value. So it's interesting. I mean, there's a few things that I want to go into there that you mentioned. The first thing that like is blaring in my mind is the fitness. When people think about DJing and it's associated with nightlife,
yeah,
for you, it's also comes at a cost of, like you said, these international weddings, international events, national events. You're flying to different countries. I mean, me and you met in Bali.
yeah.
Like these weddings are now getting crazier, or these events are taking you across the places. How do you juggle health in a nightlife environment and fitness in that environment when it's something that you prioritize? Like, what
For
does that
sure, for
look like?
sure. Yeah, I mean, the local gigs are relatively easy, right? Like if it's in Jersey or New York or even within domestic, like depends how many days, but Indian weddings, you're doing the whole wedding, multi-day event, right? So I'll take Mexico as an example because so many people get married there. Generally, what I'll do if the events are like, let's say they're Thursday welcome night, Friday Sangeet, and Saturday is like a ceremony and reception, right? Which is very standard structure. We would fly in Wednesday, and we as if there's an MC with me, but if it's just me, I fly in Wednesday usually. You don't want to take any risk of not showing up, otherwise there's no party. And then I don't have unlimited days of PTO, and I don't mean that literally, or like literally like unlimited PTO. Like I
Yeah.
said. Even if you have that, it's still inherently limited. And what I have to do is I try to find a flight that minimizes the amount of my day job that I have to miss. And I'll go there and I'll work. I'll work during the day because events are usually at night. So do my day job during the day from there, Thursday and Friday usually. And then in between, man, I'll go get a lift in. Almost every hotel has some dinky gym or something. And I know enough. I'm kind of a nerd about this stuff. So I've read so many fitness articles of everything. All the things that there is to talk about on that front, I'll probably have read something about it at some point. So you can give me a set of 25 dumbbells and I'll probably make a sick workout out of it if I had to. Or if I have cables, it's done anywhere. You can do any workout. So I'll find a way. I won't hold myself to the same standard as my regular routine, but anything that you go there, even if you get a 20-minute pump and you get certain muscle groups to failure a few times, you're moving forward. So that's really the goal. It's just to not regress when I'm on those trips. Because if I can stay steady on average during those trips, then that's a pretty good win.
Yeah.
And that Bali we were there, but that was a mutual friend of ours that was getting married. So obviously, like I was partaking in the celebrations, if you will, while also doing my job. And that's what makes some of these events for your friends so fun, is that like so many people there, like so many of the UCLA crowd was there. So I made it a blast. Otherwise, but like 90% of the gigs I'm going to, I'm not touching any alcohol. I'm not touching anything. I'll just be drinking like Diet Coke and water and or whatever it is. So I'll do the job. I'll go back, get a proper night's rest if I can, unless I have an early flight out. And yeah, some of these gigs feel like work, man, and nothing else. I'm trying to limit them, but like I've realized those aren't fun for me. But a lot of them are that, and it's hard to know ahead of time which ones are going to be fun or not, like which ones are going to feel that fulfillment or not.
Right.
But I do it like it's tiring at times. There's like a client that booked me on a 6 a.m. flight out after a reception that ended at 2 because he was trying to save some money. Like honestly, that's just a asshole move of him to save a few bucks. But yeah, like I ended up in a really terrible situation. The hotel shuttles at Cancun Airport don't run that early. And I was like, dude, am I gonna find an Uber right now? Or am I gonna have to walk to this damn airport? I'll probably get like
Right.
gunned down if I try to walk into an airport at like 4 in the morning. So there's situations like that that pop up. It's never smooth,
Okay.
but I
So
usually manage.
something like fitness is a non-negotiable, even if it's just like a bare minimum, just to maintain the consistency. And
Yeah.
then when you're back in your home base, back in New York, you're back to routine, if not, somewhere close to that. And there's a certain point, I'm sure, in your business and as like an entrepreneur where you were like, a lot of the booking and work that like logistics and dealing with clients is becoming a lot.
Yeah.
When did you choose? I know that you work for an agency now. When did you choose to work for the agency? Did they come to you? Did it make sense right away, or was there a point where you're like, I need to outsource this in
So I
general?
actually work there. I work with them like kind of loosely now, compared to
Okay.
before, more or less. We kind of have our own agreement. I'll do gigs for them when I have time where they have heavy weekends. And then otherwise, my inbound clients that are part of my network, I'm generally just keeping unless I need AV from these guys. But a lot of my clients are all like, they're all destination these days or somewhere or the other. So it's not like I'm
Yeah.
going to do the AV, somebody else is.
And
Anyways,
remind me what AV means.
audio visual. So like all the
Audio
speakers,
visual.
sound, speakers and lights and everything. So if there's another company outsourced to do that. All I do is kind of plug in, sound check, play. Well, I'm oversimplifying that, but more or less. I think I don't like doing any of the logistics. I hate all that stuff. Like I don't want to draft up contracts. I don't want to be giving quotes out to people. Like I don't want to manage some social media presence or some website or anything. Like I don't want to do any of those things. And in fact, I didn't do contracts most of my career. I started doing it at some point when like the numbers of what I was charging got to more significant. Because it's probably more important at that point. Stakes were higher, and like I have just like this PDF contract template that I use. But yeah, dude, managing like with my day job, I think I literally just got a text from a client like today. It's like, hey, just checking in. Have you connected with the AV guy? I was like, damn it, I forgot.
Hmm.
Usually I'm on top of these things, but people are trying to reach out for gigs in 2027 right now.
Wow.
And some people are more eager to lock things down quick. Some people are more like they procrastinate a little bit. So it's really different with everyone, but there is a lot of stuff that happens behind the scenes. And I think I've decided just to, if it means I can keep my own clients that I want, I'm willing to do those things still. I just
Hmm.
keep it as lightweight as possible. Like no heavy process, no weird docu signs or anything like that. Like it's just there. I think of it as a formality. I don't even collect deposits from most people, like again,
Hmm.
unless it's a big thing. So yeah, I'm kind of like in limbo in both of those right now, but I'm actually considering just like giving a hard cap now on the number of wedding gigs I take a year. And they're just
Hmm.
posting in my story saying like, hey, this is what I'm doing. If you're interested, reach out to me right now. And because they're so exhausting, man. Like
Yeah.
3 days, like 8 times a year is already a lot. I don't even know how some of these other guys I know they're doing this stuff every weekend. It's absolutely
Right.
nuts.
No, it's crazy to think about. And like Indian weddings are not like traditional,
Yeah.
like American weddings. Like it's not just like 5 days long. It's like 5 days long of intensity,
Oh
of
yeah.
eating so much. Like people bring that energy to every single event. And
Things
music
go
is such an
wrong all the
important
time,
part. Yeah,
man.
things go wrong. You don't even know about the things that go wrong, but because you're part of like essentially the staff and part of the wedding party, or a party like part of the
Yeah,
people curating the wedding, you're also, I'm sure, learning like this thing is not here on time, so we can't have you do this
for
here, or
sure, for sure.
this is not going to happen at this time. It's probably a lot just to be in that environment. But I want to touch a little bit more on the music, whether that's in like I've seen you in shows versus those types of event
Yeah.
environments. Tell me what separates the idea of playing music from curating energy in a room. Like what makes a DJ really good beyond just the technical skills, right? Like what is the thing that separates? Because I know, for me, like if I hear a decent mix, like I can tell. Like if it's a song that I love, I'm like, all right, DJ is like really good if he's hitting it time after time again. But tell me what it's like curating a room or curating energy in a room.
For sure, man. There's so much that goes into it. It's like an absolutely crazy art. And you don't realize it's an art until you do it and you realize how many different outcomes you can have and how many different input parameters there are that some you control, some you don't. In fact, many you don't, right? Like those uncontrollable parameters, I try to make sure they're in good shape. Like if I have to play at some random bar and someone's booking this private bar out, they're like, oh, they have speakers. All you have to do is come plug in. I don't just take their word for it. I'm like, hey, what do they have? And we actually probably, like, I did this. Remember, I asked you, like,
Yeah.
well, what do these guys have in this place? Because I'm not trying to show up and it's like their speakers are some intercom system. Like, we're trying to throw a
Right.
party. It needs to be loud. There needs to be a sub. There needs to be all this stuff. So I do that, but when you're there, I would say, dude, technical skills, I wouldn't even know if it cracks my like top 5 of the most important things, to be honest. Because think about it this way. You could have someone with like absolutely crazy technical chops, but they could throw the worst absolute night ever of your life if they just play like absolute garbage music and completely out of pocket things. But you could just have no DJ and plug in a phone on Spotify and have bangers, and you'll probably have a better night in that second situation. Ideally, the best case is that you have a DJ who plays the great music, because then you have someone performing it. I would say the most important thing, it's a very cliche, but yeah, the music you choose, I think it's very hard to replace. And like, say anything is more important than that. Like, what are you playing and when are you playing it situationally? Not just what are you playing. I can't just give you a play. That's when people are like, yo, give me a dope playlist from this gig this party that we just did. I was like, even if I give it to you, if you shuffle it, there's no way you're gonna get the same result as what we got that specific night, because that night will only happen one time. And those people exactly in that combination will only be in those positions in that place at that time.
Yeah.
And my job is to try to curate it to the best possible in that exact moment and situation. And I think that's where you get the energy from. If you hit the moving target exactly right, you're gonna score a lot more points. And the moving targets are insane, right? You got this one group that's like vibing with this certain song that you played, and then you start leaning into it and you play another one on that same thing, and they're like really, really liking it. And then half of them or 2 of them go to the bar, and then the whole squad goes to the bar, and then there's like uncles and aunties on this side that are just like staying there waiting for something to come on. I'll immediately try to pivot to throw everybody a bone. And it's also important that like I have what I want to hear, I have what I want to play, but I have to remind myself that like this is a service I'm rendering for everyone here. That even if this person likes a song that like I don't like, as long as I can appropriately fit it in and I won't alienate most of the crowd, everyone still deserves to have a good time. So I'll try to give something to everyone. Bali was a great example, man. We had old people, we had young people, we had Telugu people, we had people on Bollywood, we had people on Punjabi music, hip hop, everything, man. I've never played an eclectic range like that, partially because it was so long, like the dance. But the other thing is everybody wanted to be a part of it. Everybody wanted their tracks. And knowing when to do that without losing your crowd is incredibly hard. I think that's the hardest thing to do. And I think if you nail that, the technical skills, the scratching, all that stuff comes second.
Yeah.
And there's
I mean, the music is so nitpicky too. I mean, music is one of those things that everyone has a unique stance upon, unique taste.
100%.
And obviously there's popular songs that everyone can get to, but like it is so nitpicky, and people are like, I'm sure that there's people who come up to you in the middle of the night. It's like, can you play this song? It's like, people haven't heard that song in like 50 years or like 20 years. Like, no, like,
yeah, correct.
So that's one of those things I think like a DJ's talent is really unique, and it's so captivating when you're in it, right? Because it's like you're dancing, everything's going well, and then the next song comes and energy in the room just is uplifted. 100%. And then the vice versa too, right? If you play the wrong thing after, quote unquote wrong, like the room and the energy feels it in the room too.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of I had a similar guest who was talking about acting. And he mentioned the same thing. Is like, at the end of the day, this is a service. No matter what I want to curate for my own idea of what a character is, I have to serve the director's vision for this. And the same thing for the clients.
The boundaries of what your art is. And like you're not gonna ask a painter to do sculpting or vice versa. You do it within the boundaries of what you decide is your art form. So if somebody wants me to play a full set, and I've told this before, I've told this to certain clients, if they're looking for a certain type of thing that isn't me, I'll tell them, I was like, hey, I think you're actually better off going with this guy. And I've done that a few times because I know that I'm not going to be able to make the impression I want, because that's just outside of my range, if you will, or a range I don't want to learn. And I think that's okay. I think everyone has their own definitions. I will say, I think mine is extremely wide.
Yeah.
I think it's wider than most people that I've seen. I think there's a few people that I know that are have an even wider range than mine, and a lot of it is just being multicultural. If you know multiple languages, know multiple cultures, like some of my Tamil friends, or Tamil DJs, there's an entirely separate market that they serve. They throw their own parties too with that entire culture that I know very little about. But these guys also know Bollywood really well, and they know all the hip hop I know, and they know all this. So it gives them even wider range.
Mm.
And then there's the others that just laser focus in on a couple of genres. And I think that's when you get to the different types, which are shows. And you've been to one of those, right? So shows are different because I'm not actually trying to curate. You're not trying to curate, you're not trying to render a service the same way you will at an event. What you're actually doing is you're just displaying yourself and your art form. And whoever cares to come appreciate it, like a museum, they're going to come. And if they didn't like it, they probably won't come again to see that type of art. If they loved it, they will come and they'll tell their friends. So I think shows are very different. There's so much more freedom to express things the way you want.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, like a show, sorry to cut you off, show is like people come for you, as opposed to an event is something that you're inserted into to curate an environment like a vision, but a show, people come for you or that environment, and that's like a place for self-expression. And I guess that kind of brings me into the next segment, is like, tell me a little bit more about creating in that space. So obviously DJing is like you take other people's art forms and create your own, subsection of art. What does creating look like for you these days? Now you're telling me like more producing is in the table. What does that look like? And how does that fit in?
Yeah, man. Producing is just like a whole nother game, man. It's just so difficult. Hats off to everybody that does it well. It's incredibly hard. Learning curve is very steep unless you were trained, I think, in music, which I never was. So I'm not one of those guys that can hear something and just play it on a piano. I don't know how to play any instruments. I don't know what keys are what, but I do know when something sounds like trash versus when it sounds good intuitively. So I try to follow my ear, but when you're producing, you do have to know these technicals, right? I can't just paint some random notes and hope that this chord is going to sound good. Like, it's an aimless way to go. So I'm a lot slower at it because I don't have that inherent core training on this stuff, where I wish I did, but it's okay. Now there's so many resources that you can use to help you through this. I wish I spent more time on it, man. If I'm being very honest, I didn't even hit my goal for this year. I have 2 tracks ready and I haven't released them. And I have my own internal hesitations as to why I haven't. But I want to get back. But yeah, dude, it's like there's endless boundaries. It's when you're making a mashup, the parameters are limited. You're working within the confines of the songs you're using. Whereas I can go record myself throwing this pen at the wall and take that sound and throw it in my track. I can make that a kick drum if I want. There's so many like infinite permutations of what you can do. And that's what I think makes producing scary and hard, but also exciting at the same time. And if you listen to the types of electronic music people are putting out, man, people are literally inventing new genres like every 6 months. They're creating new sounds that have never been made before because the world has allowed that freedom to go out. Like Fred again just decided to go crazy doing a bunch of things, and now he's like one of the biggest DJs in the world. But yeah, you put this guy in a vacuum, we're like, this guy's a nut job. Like, what's he doing? He's spazzing out on this thing. But he somehow made this new culture and genre so popular that whatever you want to call it. And I think that's why electronic music's so exciting. Like, I love hip hop. That's like what I love listening to the most. But I think producing hip hop doesn't feel as open-ended. It's hard for me to create like a net new thing. I can create sick beats where I'll show someone and they'll be like, oh wow, that's dope. I would listen to a rap on that. But something that like turns your head, you're like, I've never heard a beat like this. It's hard to do in hip hop because I think you're working with a smaller subset of instruments, generally, with like drums and things, right? With electronic, dude, you can turn country into it, you can turn Afro beats into it, you can turn anything into it. It's been such an interesting, I'd say I had my first breakthrough probably with these 2 tracks I haven't finished. First time I made something that if I show someone, they wouldn't think some guy just made it in his bedroom. They'd be like, oh, this sounds like something like, if you told me a famous guy made this, I could believe it. And that's not to say they like it or they don't, but they agree that it sounds professionally made. And that's the first time I've been able to do that. So I really want to lean in. But yeah, this comes back to finding the time, right? I have to give up something to do it.
Yeah, I think creating at least when I was making music, a lot of it was whenever I'd rap or make a song, we'd send it straight to the producer and let him cook. Like, let him do his job with all the audio. And as long as everything is within a certain quality, like the science that goes behind trying to make a professional sound from that. I mean, it would go from like people who are just doing this on their laptop to like being in the studio and seeing all the equipment that goes into it. I think people definitely would benefit from like a musically trained background, because sound is something that, like, even if people don't know anything about music, like, you can hear the difference.
Yeah.
And especially if it's something that you're playing, like, I mean, even with the podcast, right? Like, audio quality is so important to me, because people aren't always going to watch the video. Or if you're listening to something like a podcast and the audio is shit, like, I'm
Yeah.
turning it off. Like, I
Yeah,
don't want to
exactly.
hear that, right?
100%, man.
So on like a subconscious level, I think music has spiritual intonations. Like, that is something that's always transgressed with humanity from the earliest days of, like, just beating on drums
Yep.
and singing. So like, we have like a biological like sound and ear for
100%.
that type of thing. And obviously some people are more inclined to it being musically trained. But I think another part of something you were telling me back at the wedding was producing is so hard because you're also a bit of a perfectionist, and
Yeah.
there may be some things that you can hear and like an ear that like a small thing that might be throwing you off, but to the normal ear would be, nothing if you didn't point it
Oh, yeah.
out. And that is probably, I'm sure, a barrier as well. But I mean, I just say drop it.
No, I know,
I
I
say
know.
if the
That is
timing
what I need to learn.
aligns.
That's why I need to
Yeah.
learn to do better, man. That's the thing is, I think the last 10 drafts of one of these songs I had, if I'd show my girlfriend, I was like, hey, here's the new draft. But I wouldn't even show her every draft anymore. I'd show her every like four. And she'd still be like, oh, I can't tell the difference. And then you'd have to
Right.
like put it next to each other, be like, oh, I barely hear the difference. I was like, oh, in my head, I hear like night and day.
Right.
But yeah, I think that points to, I think a lot of producers and a lot of people have said this. They're like, you just have to finish the damn track and just release
Yeah.
it. It does not have to be 100, but something out there at 70% of what it could be is better than nothing out there at all. Like, no one cares about how close you got to scoring a touchdown. Just score the damn touchdown somehow.
Yeah. I
Otherwise,
think that goes across art form. I mean, like,
exactly.
even as I've been writing more, as I've been creating more, I realize that there's always more that you can add to something, but it's like it doesn't exist until it's like put out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that I'm sure across human history, there's been a lot of things that are really beautiful that people didn't get to experience as a
100%.
byproduct of people not putting it out. So I'm excited for when those come out, whether that's
Hey,
this year
it'll
or
be
next
soon, man.
year.
It'll be soon for sure.
So this podcast, I've the later segments tend to be the ones that get to the deeper questions. Tell me a little bit more about what purpose is to you these days. Like, what is the biggest drive behind you maintaining this passion for not just music in your business, but working really hard towards your goal at your professional work, fitness? And like, you underplayed it a little bit. I know you're a fitness freak and a nutrition freak. All those things that you manage and the drive for also doing that on top of taking care of the people around you, your relationship, your family, and showing up. What is the kind of inner mechanism behind that? What's the why behind that? What is the thing that's keeping you going as far as doing all those things?
Yeah, for sure. I don't feel like I have to ever remind myself that like, hey, go do this thing, because to me, the default is to try to do it all. The part that takes a conscious effort is to pull back on certain things so you can actually maybe do something else a little bit better, or give a little bit more focus to something else. So that's what takes the conscious part of me. So that's first. But second, if I had to analyze it as to why, probably because if I'm old, man, I'm more likely to regret not doing the thing than doing the thing. I'm probably more, I don't think there's going to be a 90-year-old version of me saying, like, yeah, I wish I had taken some more naps that year. Like, there's no way. But if I turn down a gig in Bali or something like that, like, I'm going to be like, what a chump you were to not do that just because you were tired. So I think that's part of it. I think that's how I can justify it if I had to analyze it. But to be honest, it's mostly just like, just following my intuition. If it's what I want to do, I feel like I want to do it. And sometimes I have to sit there and like analyze the last X amount of time and see like, hey, is this thing still like fun? Or am I just doing it because I didn't stop to challenge it? I've made that mistake a couple of times with DJing for sure. It's like, dude, I need to, like, after, sometimes I look back, I was like, dude, I'm done doing these kind of gigs. There's no way I'm doing this again. There's a point that happened with the college gigs, right? Everyone has to graduate. You can't keep doing that. It's like creepy at some point. So
Yeah.
But mine was for a different reason. It was like, these guys just don't appreciate these certain tracks that you drop that I need my crowd to appreciate, because they're just songs I love, and that's what makes it fun for me. They just don't hit the same with a certain generation and stuff like that, I think. And that's when I stopped doing those. So I think there's a point where I will look back and analyze things and decide when I should stop doing something, but it's usually not much that I've decided to say no to, as much as I'll sign up for more.
Yeah. Well, I think there is something to say about that. And I think when I was first getting consistent in things in my life, whether that was the gym or spirituality, just like creativity, like whatever it was that I was trying to be consistent at, there's a certain inflection point where consistency looked different. Consistency was actually, or I guess I should say discipline looked different, because discipline before was just showing up and
Yeah,
doing the thing time and time again. But at a certain point, discipline became saying no to the thing so that I could continue being consistent about it. Discipline became like, for example, in the gym, it'd be like, I came here to do 4 sets of this. If I feel good after the 4th set, like really good to do the 5th set, I'm going to stop myself in that moment and say no, because I know that I came here to do this X amount. And if I push myself too hard, either I risk getting injured or getting sick, or pushing myself to a point where I can't be consistent tomorrow. So
yeah,
it sounds like for you, the hard work was it was intuitive, that it was all intuition. Whatever you're doing is something that you wanted to do. The actual conscious part of you that wanted to, reflect on things was like, maybe I don't enjoy this part of this
yeah,
activity anymore.
yeah,
Maybe I've gotten to a level where maybe I don't need to do this event for any reason other than like it's not serving me the same way creatively or giving me
exactly.
that energy. And that's like, I think, a form of like purpose in its own right.
Yeah,
I think as people progress, what I've learned from just a few episodes that I've done is like, once you reach a certain level to things, being picky and choosy is like a privilege that's earned by that. So it's cool to see that by preserving that, you get to do the things that you want to do more. And in turn, it brings you energy to continue doing it.
yeah.
So the name of the podcast is If I Died Today. I named it that because I think mortality is something we all can get around. I think human beings relate to that. If you died today, what part of your story would you want people to remember?
Yeah, honestly, man, it's so hard to pick sometimes, but I feel like if I think about it, the obvious choice for me is still showing up, like the guy that showed up for all the important people. Like, different people in my life, if they listen to this, they might think otherwise, but I would say most of them will think I do. It's something I consciously try to do at the expense of a lot of things on my end. In fact, I've been told by several people to draw kind of stricter boundaries around what I put into other things, other relationships and stuff with people. But that's just something I can't not do, I feel like, for whatever reason. If I can make it, I will try to make it. Even if it's wildly tiring and absolutely ridiculous trip that's uncomfortable, I'll usually still try my best. So yeah, everything else aside, like I feel like I am blessed to live a pretty cool life, all things considered. So it'd be nice to have certain things remembered. But like, no, I mean, if I had to choose someone who remembers me as a good DJ, or like this, like a best friend or a great friend or something, I'd definitely choose the friend.
No, that's how I characterize you as an individual. I think at the bare interactions that we've had, whether that's traveling, I've learned a lot about you and how important it is to show up in other people's life. And sometime last year, when I was in the midst of being tired with my last job, like, or just being exhausted in general, I remember going to Bali and us talking about the value of time, but on top of that, attention. Like,
Yeah,
time without attention is nothing. You can give time to someone, but if you're not really there, or if you're not present and showing up, it really means nothing. And you symbolize that. You show up for people. I know across the board, not only in my life, and people that are around your life, and you do that consistently, and that's a characteristic of yours that I really admire. If you did think you haven't done that already, you showed up for people. You showed up for me in my life already in the short time that we've known each other.
appreciate it, man. I'm
So
glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear
yeah,
that.
no, I'm looking forward to all the new things that you're going to come out with producing wise.
100%.
I'll tag all your music and everything below any events. I know you have a New Year's Eve event coming. Do you want to shout that out or?
Sure, man. Yeah. It's probably one of the cooler opportunities I've probably ever had, to be honest. I never thought I'd be actually on an opening lineup for like a relatively big DJ. So playing New Year's Eve at Arlo, Williamsburg. It's hosted by the Azure Day Party guys. They throw those rooftop parties in Williamsburg in the summers. Same group, Systech. If anyone listens to Afro House, he's the headliner. So yeah, hopefully it's a good time. I have never been out at any of these like New York City New Year's Eve things. I'm not a New Year's Eve type of person usually, but I'm excited because I get to play a gig during it. So yeah, let's see how it is. But never thought I'd be on the same flyer as someone that big. So it was pretty cool.
No, that's awesome. I'll go ahead and tag the tickets for that event below. All of Vin's socials. Please check out his stuff. And if you're in New York City, you gotta go. I wish I could be there, but thank you so much for joining the podcast early on. And yeah, man, I hope everyone tunes in and enjoys the episode.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me again, man. This was a fun time.
Thank you for listening to If I Died Today with your host, Samay Mishra. Every story reminds us that life's meaning isn't found in what we achieve, but in who we become. Join us next time as we explore another journey, another life, and another reason to keep going. New episodes drop soon, so subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And if today's conversation moved you, leave us a review or share it with someone who'd appreciate the message.